This episode of the Athletic Football Show is brought to you by Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's finger licking good. Make everyone in the family happy with a 12-piece meal from KFC. Get all your favorites, like 12 pieces of their freshly prepared world-famous chicken, 3 drums, 3 thighs, 3 breasts, 3 wings, 3 large sides of your choice, and 6 biscuits. Order now on the KFC app or at kfc.com.
This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me today, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Week 5, we're rolling. It's one of those things where we get to 18 weeks now that it's week 6 is like the thirds. I've actually been really I don't like the uneven numbers that we play. That's really been bugging me actually more than jersey number changes.
Because week 4 should be the quarter mark. Week 4 should be a quarter of the way through the season, and now it's not anymore. And I don't know what to do with myself.
I know halfway through week 5, I guess, is now the quarter mark. So now that's how we have to look at it now. So this show is the quarter mark. That's where we're at. We're for the season. There we go. We're at 4.5 weeks.
Diante is going to be joining us a little bit later. We're going to talk about the Cowboys defense against the Rams offense for our game plan of the week. If that is an indication, and I think it is, of the slate that we have this week, not a ton of marquee games. Yeah. Not a ton. Not a lot of games. You're like, oh man, I have that circled this week, and that's okay. That happens every once in a while. But week 5 does not have the sort of sex appeal that some of the other weeks we're going to have over the course of the season might. And that is why we're going to start with one game of the week this week. It is Bengals at Ravens in prime time. This one is a big game. Think about the implications in the division. And I wanted to talk about this. We've talked about these teams so much, I think, especially the Ravens over the last few weeks, the nitty-gritty of their offense. I wanted to take a step back and just talk about this game in more of a wide-ranging way. These are two teams to me that feel like they're still figuring themselves out. With the Bengals, I think it's on offense. With the Ravens, I think it's a lot on defense and then maybe a little bit on offense. They're both 2-2. I think that's kind of where they both sit with all these unanswered questions. How are you feeling just about where both of these teams are at almost a quarter of the way into the season?
I just want to talk about Lamar is like my favorite thing that I talk about these teams. But it's the Bengals kind of, I wouldn't say woes, but maybe frustrations with the offense a little bit is kind of what we wanted to see changes. And I think that leads to more frustrations is that this offense has been kind of it relies on the explosives. It's still so static. And I always use the term siloed and it still feels that way, even though we'll talk about it, but they try to throw in some tendency breakers, like real early on. They're kind of like to appease the teacher a little bit, just like, hey, I did a good job here. Right. And then they just go back to their own, their usual ways. But I do like the defenses have been very interesting as well. And it's funny that the Ravens defense, I feel like they're just throwing a lot of stuff against the wall. And I kind of want to see what starts working for them, especially, they're battling so many injuries up front, especially, but trying to figure out what they want to do. But also the Bengals defense has been fun. We got really excited about their third down looks last year, but it's fun watching them on all 3 downs now this year. So it's kind of like a lot of good. There's a lot of good players involved. I think there's some fun schematic things, but it's also feels very incomplete, even though both teams have had some solid wins.
All right, let's start with the Bengals offense and some of those tendency breakers. Because when they came out in the first drive against the Dolphins last week, it's like, ooh, okay, like I can get on board with some of this stuff. Using motion in interesting ways, kind of creating quick completions. They had a couple of shotgun gap scheme runs, especially down near the red zone, that ultimately led to that Joe Mixon touchdown. And it does feel like in these moments where they can do some pre-planning and say, all right, these are going to be our first 15 plays. How can we play with expectations about what we are and what we've been and what some of our issues have been? And then as the game wore on, things, like you said, start to feel a little bit more static. They start to feel a little bit more staid. And some of those issues, again, begin to creep up. What is preventing them from kind of extending what they did on that first drive into an entire game? Because that's the frustrating part about watching them right now is that, like you said, a lot of their explosive plays in that Miami game came down to T. Higgins winning on a go ball. Just stuff that they've done before and ways they've won before.
It feels like they have, okay, if you're presenting this coverage against us, I'll just give an example. Cover 2. They love to run a dagger concept, which is when you have a guy running a seam and then you have a dig coming underneath it. It's like the T. Higgins special. Like they love running it with him. So they have one answer for it. Okay, what else you got? Like, I think that's where a lot of the frustrations comes. It feels like they go, well, if we get this, we have this call for it. Okay, but then season wears on, games wear on. Okay, what else you got? Like, what else? It's never really a good thing. It was a fun play, but when it's a 3rd and 7 and you're running a double pass with Tyler Boyd, like a play that you usually see on like a 1st and 10 or like a 2nd and 4 or something like that, you're running on 3rd and long. That kind of feels like, oh, we got to empty the chamber. This is all we got. Like, and again, they're going to have an extended week. That was a short week leading up to the Dolphins game. So we'll see. And against an opponent that they played against a bunch, with the staff as well and these players. But I think that's where the frustration comes from, is that everything's a one-off. It's not that they repeat a lot of stuff. There's been times earlier this year where they're running a 4-minute drill in the 4th quarter where they're trying to milk some clock, and they run some heavy personnel and they're running the ball, and it looks pretty good. Like they did an okay job with it. It's okay to do that during the rest of the game. Like, you don't have to be so segmented with hey, 3rd and 7 against cover 2, we're running this. You have to have a multitude of answers. I think that's what the NFL is all about, having different tools in your toolbox. And I feel like that they, by design, like they put themselves in these compartments that they don't have to. So I think that's where the frustration comes, and why they have some great players, and once in a while they have some good stuff, but there's just no consistency. There's no fluidness with this offense.
I was watching them against Miami last week, and 2 things jumped out to me about their offense. One, you're playing against this team in the Dolphins that runs more man coverage on 3rd down historically than pretty much any other defense in the league. And they've tweaked that down a little bit this year, but that's what you'd expect from the Dolphins on 3rd and 8. So the Bengals come out on 3rd and 8 in the first half, and they're in this super spread out look. And they essentially have one-on-one matchups with all of their guys, except for Jamar Chase, who's double teamed because they're running a double coverage on him on 3rd down, which makes total sense. And you have Xavier Howard, who's a little bit banged up, T. Higgins. They glove it up completely. Nobody is open. It's like, what are these super spread looks against the team is playing man coverage on 3rd down? And they had somebody look this up for me. They had the 5th largest formation width in the entire NFL. And the other teams that are right up top, the Bills, the Cardinals, teams that are spread out the same way the Bengals like to be. But these super spread formations in some of those situations, it's like you're making it easy on people. And they just make it easy on people too often for me. And it's frustrating to watch. The other takeaway that I had, I don't know how you feel about this. Lyle Collins just doesn't look right to me. He had a back injury coming into that game, and in the run game, I was like, he just does not look right. He does not look healthy. He had a rest day this week, even though he's not, I think, technically on the injury report. So those are the 2 things that jumped out, where it's like every once in a while you see these tendency breakers where something flashes and you feel good about it, but then it just gets to spread out, static, stayed, and they run into some of the same issues. And we have a Ravens defense that still figuring themselves out. Like you said, they have undergone a massive schematic tweak under Mike McDonald this year, and some of the stuff that they're doing, way less man coverage, way less blitzing. They're running a little bit of everything. They've dealt with some injuries in the secondary. They've had some moving pieces. Justin Houston's been out. So they're really trying to figure themselves out. If you're Baltimore's defense and you're looking at some of these issues that the Bengals offense continues to have, what is your plan rooted in on Sunday?
And cover 2. I think it's been kind of a proven point that when this Ravens defense, like you just alluded to, is they have been just really trying to see, like, okay, we're going to run this. Does this work? We're going to run cover 3. Does this work? We're going to run man. Does this work? We're going to bring a blitz. Does this work? Like, it seems like they're guessing on what their fastball is. And it's good to run a little bit of everything. The Bengals defense does. But the Ravens defense, it feels like they're guessing. Like, oh, I think this is what we should run here. And I think it's just, don't get antsy against this Bengals offense. It is, and I think this is what keeps happening to all these defenses. Even the Dolphins defense on Thursday night was, we got them. We're heating them.
Dolphins are an inherently antsy defense.
Yes, they're like, we got them where we want them. Okay, let's bring some heat. Oh, shoot. There goes the ball launched over the top. And I think that's what you're going to take some blows. Joe Burrow is a good football player. Even if he's gone off to a slow start, he can create some stuff. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are phenomenal. Tyler Boyd's a great slot receiver. So just you have to show what has worked against this offense is running cover 2 and making them be nickel and dime you. Don't let them get to the explosive plays. Make them be efficient. And I think that's what you have to lean into against this team. I think this Ravens defense, there's times where it seems to me, and actually it's their offense as well, that stuff seems good on a chalkboard. And then as soon as that goes into practice, then it's like other offenses are manipulating them. Like there's a play against the Bills last week. They brought either a pressure or a simulated pressure, but they're bringing somebody. And Owa, number 99, has to run with a receiver from the number 3 spot. Owa is a very fantastic athlete. He is figuring out how to be a football player. You should let him play fast and limit his menu. Hey, pin your ears back and go, pin your ears back and go. Making this guy think, oh, I got to look up and where's number 3 at? I got to run with this guy. He's a great athlete. Don't get me wrong. That's too much on his plate, I think. And talking about why the Bengals offense could be frustrating, it's the same talking point for both of these things. Why the Bengals offense could be frustrating, it lets opposing defenses play fast. That's what these guys are all amazing athletes. You have all this scheme that can get guys open, but letting the players play fast is the number one importance, number one fact of what you want to do as a coach. So that's what the Bengals offense lets opposing defenses do. Oh, man, they're under center on second down. Here comes a run play. Here comes a zone. Oh, they're 3rd and 7 and another static look. Okay, look out for this. Oh, they're in an off tight end look. Here comes 989 vertical throws. Like you kind of know what's coming. So you let defenses play fast. Flip side for the Ravens defense, it's, hey, maybe limit your menu and try and be more basic. We got a lot of injuries. Let these guys play fast. We have enough talented pieces. So let's put them in the good spots and let them use those gifts that they have.
On the flip side, I think when you compare the Ravens defense, which is still really trying to figure themselves out, the Bengals defense is so familiar with each other and there's so much continuity that they can just do a ton of everything. They're running a little bit of every single coverage. They're doing so many interesting things. There's one play, I tweeted it out during the game on last Thursday, and it's a 1st and 10 in the first half. And the Bengals run a simulated pressure where they bring the nickel off one side and they're in a single high look. So Von Bell, who's walked down, then buzzes into the flat, and the corner on that side bails all the way out into the deep half and cover 2. So it's a simulated pressure where they run cover 2, but the corner is in the deep half, and it's beautiful. And it checks it down to Tyreek Hill. It's like a 2-yard gain. And that's not just a one-off thing. They do that shit all the time. They are getting to all of these different coverages in all of these weird ways. And I think it's hard to pin down. You watch some of it and it's like, I'm not sure exactly what that is because they're tweaking certain coverages in very specific ways based on formations and alignments. And it's like, is that quarters? And if it is, why is Jesse Bates playing that deep? But it always makes sense when you look at how the routes distribute. I mean, this has been a top 5 defense in pretty much every single area this season. They've been really good against the run. They've been really good against the pass. And it's not like you can point to one thing of, oh, they're running a ton of man or they're blitzing a ton. They don't blitz very often. They don't run a ton of man coverage compared to other teams in the league. It's just this variety of coverages that make a ton of sense. If you think about the play that Tua got hurt on, it's cover 2 and it just distributes perfectly and the space they create in it. And it's been a really, really fun team to watch. Like it's just a veteran group that knows what they're doing and they make it hard on you consistently. And I think this Ravens team that we have problems with the way that the passing game is structured at times, I think that they're going to have a tough time against this Bengals secondary and this Bengals defense based on what they've looked like so far this season.
That's having the tools that work. That's what's nice, especially when it's solo coach. That's what was fun watching that Bengals defense last year. It was usually 3rd down where I really focus on and compliment them. And that's what now it seems like it's all 3 downs that they're like, hey, we can do kind of it's not exotic, but do these change ups, do this like mix window dressing. We talk about window dressing for an offense, but this is window dressing for a defense. And when you're going against quarterbacks or a scheme and how they teach it, that makes them hold on to the ball that extra second. Like even against Cooper Rush, it wasn't that they brought a bunch of blitzes. They showed that they were bringing a bunch of blitzes. So Cooper Rush is getting the ball and going, oh, okay. I got it. Okay. That was just cover 3. Oh, what's this? Oh no, it's cover 2. Okay. So it's the big brother thing. I'm not hitting you. But that makes a quarterback hold on to the ball. Lamar's a totally different animal and he's doing so well out of the pocket this year. But if Rashad Bateman's not playing, that's pretty iffy for the Ravens. That's a little scary because that has become a nice answer for them that, oh, you want to play single high? Yes, Mark Andrews is fantastic and Dever Duvernay is a nice role player, but Bateman could win one-on-ones. So I think if you take that away from them, do we load the box? Do we show those load the box, and then run cover 2 from the loaded box? Like get into those more different looks. So I think that's where the Bengals have a nice passing game advantage, I think, as far as just like how they want to play, because they can really run everything well. That's what happens when you have an intelligent defense with really good coaching staff. And I think that Bengals coaching staff on defense has done a really good job this last couple of years.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's looking at some of the numbers, them in cover 2 this season has been incredible. They played 26 snaps of it. Teams have a 36.9 passer rating on those plays, which is dead last in the league. 4.87 net yards per attempt against cover 2. The only team who's played at least 10 snaps of it and has been better this season is the Niners. Quarterbacks are 13 of 23 for 112 yards when the Bengals have played cover 2 this season. They have 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on 23 dropbacks. So that's more 20% of the time when they've run it, it ends up in a sack or an interception.
And just think, okay, Trey Hendrickson's a great player, but you don't really think of the Bengals as like, oh my God, look at all this juice they're bringing in the pass rush. Those are coverage sacks. And that speaks to the window dressing that they're doing. That's a great stat.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching them. And I think it's going to be difficult. The one other thing about their defense I think is absolutely worth mentioning, the stats and the splits when DJ Reader has been on the field and when he hasn't been on the field are really noticeable. And I think it's something to take into account for running games moving forward, because he's going to be out for probably the next 5 or 6 weeks. All right. They have a 74.4% rush success rating as a defense when he has been on the field. That would be the best in the league over the course of an entire season. 3.23 yards per carry. They would have the best EPA per rush in the NFL when he's out there. When he is not, they're 18th in EPA per rush, and they're 22nd in defensive success rate against the run when DJ Reader is not playing. He is not playing. So if you're the Ravens and you're worried about all that funky shit they can throw at you on the back end, can you lean on the run in this game? Because when the Dolphins ran it okay. There was some pop in their running game last week. And I think that if you want to lean on that a little bit more with Reader out, that's something that you can do. So just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about how the Ravens might approach this.
And I think that's what it's going to be. I think this ball is going to be staying on the ground. This might be their time of possession might be a little long, because I think they're going to be going for maybe some gun runs. And that's another thing though, is the Bengals defense is so well coached. Okay. Greg Roman has some tendencies. Like, okay, we go in the 4 wide look, shotgun look. They might tee off on it. So it's a fun little chess match. And I think it's going to be a ground one. It's going to be a jiu-jitsu battle as opposed to a haymaker battle, which is fun. I think it's going to be a good game. That's why it's our game of the week.
In the AFC North. I mean, it's a huge game in this division. This division feels like it's kind of up for grabs.
It is.
The Browns are lingering here, and you have these 2 teams that I think are still trying to find themselves. And so this is going to be a big one in terms of who's going to get the inside track in the division. All right. It's time to get to Diante and our game plan of the week. Let's bring in.
So, Frank, here's the plan.
Bring in the righty.
What's up, buddy?
Let's do it. What's going on, guys?
All right. We're going to talk about the Rams offense against the Cowboys defense. You know, this game is, in other times and other seasons, is one of the marquee games of the week, but we got Cooper Rush. We got a Rams offense that's struggling, but I do think this is worth digging into for a few different reasons. So, Diante, if you're Dan Quinn and you're watching that Monday night game and what the Niners did to that Rams offense, what are you thinking while you're watching that game?
I'm going on the internet and I'm looking for a boat because I'm about to get a raise. Okay. I'm looking at my financing options for a yacht because I'm about to get paid after this game is probably what I'm thinking if I'm Dan Quinn.
Where does your game plan start after watching just the damage that the Niners did, their pass rush did, their pressure looks did against a Rams offense that is just really struggling to protect its quarterback?
If I'm Dan Quinn, I probably don't have to leave the first 5 pages of the playbook, right? Because it's all exactly who he is as a coach, which is sending 5, I think creating these 5-man pressures. One of the things that the 49ers did really well was walking linebackers up over centers, over guards, allowing their edge rushers to work on one-on-one situations, and then really forcing those interior linemen to have to pick up twists and stunts. You saw often, Matthew Stafford being walked off his platform or not being able to set up a platform at all to be able to deliver the ball. So that was something that I definitely think if you're the Cowboys, you walk away with saying, hey, the blueprint to beat this team isn't just what the Bills did in terms of never blitzing them at all and only rushing 4 and playing split safety coverages. That's just another tool to have in the tool belt, which I think kind of gets into some of the things that the Cowboys do well as well. But it's rushing 5, right? And they're first in the NFL at pressure rate, right? And only 21% and only 21st in their percent of snaps with 5+ rushers. So they can get it done no matter how they want to get after the quarterback. So that's the first thing I'm starting with. And then from a schematics perspective, it's the mixture of cover 1, cover 3, and cover 2, right? In a lot of ways, it's almost like watching the 2018-19 Chiefs if they actually had like real banshees as pass rushers, right? Because you're playing with the lead. Hey, we don't have to be very diverse on the back end. We're going to play tight man coverage. We'll play cover 3. We want to stop the run. And then every time you think you're getting cover 1, we'll mix up the looks on third down and give you these cover 2 types of rotations. So that's kind of been the ethos for Dan Quinn. And I think the speed of this defense, not only up front, but what they're doing on the back end in terms of changing the rotations is causing a lot of quarterbacks trouble.
So at first glance, just from an outside observer, the idea of pairing cover 2 and cover 1 and how they complement each other might be a little bit hard to understand. Why is cover 2 in some of those defined passing situations a workable and effective counter to a team that runs a lot of single high and a lot of man coverage?
I think it all comes down to understanding where coverages are weak and where they're strong and how you can play one against the other or play one with another. So when you think about cover 1, right, everybody is lined up across from a guy close to the line of scrimmage. You're getting single coverage across the board. You can attack a defense up the perimeter. That's part of the reason why the Cowboys gave up so many explosive passes last season. And they were still mixing in some cover 2, but they really leaned hard on third down situations, especially before DeMarcus Lawrence got healthy and they had a secondary pass rusher. It's sending 5 and playing tight man coverage. Well, when an offense knows to expect that in these third down looks, and when you're giving them, hey, 4 guys have their hand in the dirt and you have a linebacker walked up or 2 linebackers walked up, as a quarterback, that pre-snap processing is, okay, I need to make sure that I have a look at what my one-on-one might be, because there's a good chance that the ball's got to come out right this second. Well, cover 2 could not be more opposite, right? If you want to run cover 2 or if you want to beat cover 2, that's going to take full drop back. I'm probably going to have to work to number 2, number 3 in my progression. I've got to be able to navigate a pocket that's probably going to be crushed because of a bunch of movements up front, because that's usually how NFL defenses play cover 2, is with a lot of twists and stunts. So those 2 things, I mean, when you think about from a philosophical perspective, they could not be any less similar, but when you mix the 2 together in terms of what I'm showing them pre-snap, and now, okay, not only is the coverage changing as I'm looking at it, I'm losing sight of where number 11 is. I'm losing sight of where number 90 is, because there's a bunch of moving parts. So my brain almost has to work in 2 different ways. Not only am I trying to change where I'm working through the progression, it's, okay, well, where is this twist about to hit me from? Who were the 4 rushers in the first place? Because they had all these guys walked up. Did we slide the protection right? Are they bringing a nickel? Is there, all those types of things, that kind of cascading effect that I'm always talking about and how you want to design a defense. That's why it's been so effective. And if you look at the numbers, it bears it out. When they're playing cover 1, I think their pressure rate dips to below 40%, but they're basically first in the NFL when they play cover 2. They're technically 4th by ranking, but the teams that are in front of them have played it by like 6 snaps or less, and they've played it 50 snaps, which is leading the NFL. So that's that changing picture, right? You can't always guarantee you're going to get home if a quarterback can confirm the coverage that he's looking at and the matchups he wants to attack. When you get that extra second and you have just this absolute banshee and Micah Parsons tearing off the edge and
DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence is so good.
Yeah,
you just forget about that because of how good Micah Parsons is. When you both of them, it changes things. So looking at the numbers, I was just looking it up right now. The Cowboys are number 1 in the league in the number of snaps they have played cover 2 this season. Number 1 in the league. They were 11th last year. Dante, just think about what I just said to you. Dan Quinn is number 1 any defensive coordinator in the NFL in the number of snaps he has played cover 2. It is just so far removed from what we knew about Dan Quinn as a coach before this happened. And I think just this constant willingness to be like, all right, here's one tweak. Here's another tweak. Here's the next tweak. It's what he has done over the last couple of seasons is incredibly impressive.
That flexibility, I think, is the reason why they're successful this year without all the turnover production, and why they've been able to maintain their pass rush production. It's not just Lawrence and Parsons being healthy and available on the edge, when you're taking some strain off your guys in coverage, I'm buying guys time to get home or to affect the quarterback. Yes. That's that kind of push and pull thing. And the other part of this, and obviously, you consider the messenger here. So I'm sure the Cowboys fans are not going to be very happy to hear me say anything at all about this guy. But when you have a really good corner, which they have right now in Trevon Diggs, based on the way that he's playing, that's that much more of a consideration a quarterback has to make. We talk all the time about it being players over plays, right? Well, shoot, I've got an all-pro edge rusher right now in Michael Parsons, maybe a defensive player of the year. I've got one of the best secondary edge rushers in the NFL in DeMarcus Lawrence, and a corner that's playing like a true corner one. And you're telling me I've got to look at this safety go from 5 yards deep to 22 yards deep in cover 2, and I've got to sort all that out? I mean, there's only so much time in a play to get the ball out, and that's why they've been so effective. And I think that's why you saw the way that Washington handled them in terms of the screens and the quick games and all of that, just trying to get the ball at the quarterback's hands so he doesn't get his head taken off.
So that brings me to my next question here, Nate. If you're Sean McVay and you're the Rams in this game, outside of just trying to keep your hands on the wheel and keep this thing together over the course of 4 quarters, where does your plan even start based on the way you protected recently and what this Cowboys pass rush has looked like?
Yeah, first of all, I'll start that I feel like Dan Quinn is going to be like the kicker and water boy and finding who the onside kick is going to go to and finding the guy that's sweating with his eyes open. And I think that's going to be the center, Jeremiah Cologne, if he has to play and go, oh, yeah, there's my bitch. Because that's what the 49ers did. As soon as that guy went in there, they were like, ooh, let's run some twists. Here comes Nick Bosa wrapping around. And
is Nick Bosa the scariest player on those games in the league in terms of like change of direction and how fast he gets vertical on those plays? Because I think he is like in his own zip code with that. One he had, I was like, holy shit.
But it's
disgusting.
Like he's like a mech where his upper body isn't attached to his lower body.
Yes.
We talk about like Justin Jefferson's like this.
Yeah.
Now imagine a guy at 265 pounds doing this. Like because he like has his shoulders square. Von Miller can do it really well too.
Yeah.
But he's also 30 pounds lighter. So it's like his shoulders are square to the line of scrimmage as his legs are going 45
like at a 45 degree angle.
Yeah, and then turns back.
It's insane.
It's
defies
weird.
Physics.
It does. It really does. And what's funny, it's like, oh, well, that helps when you have Nick Bosa. Guess what? Cowboys have Micah Parsons. So
yes.
That's not going to be a lot of fun. But it's when you're playing against his man and cover 2 teams, it actually couldn't be a worse matchup for this Rams offense, because not only the offensive line, who, as we see on Monday night, struggling to protect, they don't have a lot of juice, which we have ragged on, especially their offseason plan. A lot of juice in the passing game, but not a lot of juice in the run game. So even when stuff is blocked up well, Cam Akers hasn't made anyone miss, I don't think, this entire season. And Henderson is fine. He's a nice complimentary back, but it's not a lot of juice coming in the run game. So it's a smoke and mirrors game, I think, for McVay. I think there's going to be a lot of jet sweep action in this game. It's going to look like a 2020 Rams offense with a better quarterback. And Stafford's playing fine. That's what's hilarious. Stafford's not the issue. I mean, he missed the 1 touchdown Higbee on the screen, but it's going to be a 3 yards and cloud of dust game with a lot of window dressing in the run game, because I think as fast as that defensive line is, you got Van Der Esch and Anthony Barr, who aren't great side to side guys anymore. So I think it's going to be a horizontal type run game where you're trying to capture the edge and get out there. And how you do that is that jet sweep action that they have done over the years, a ton of times over the years, they actually have to hand the ball off. I think it's just a way to keep this defense honest. You have to just keep them. You can't let them tee off on you. And the Rams under McVay have been one of the best teams at being a smoke and mirrors team, especially when they had Goff. Last year, they kind of got away with it because they could just go, hey, we got this super powered quarterback against the blitz and we're going, let's do it. Let's just launch this ball. So I think now you have to get kind of back to the basics for them, which is actually kind of exotic in a way. But I think they have to. They ran the receiver counter play in the red zone against the 49ers on Monday. They have to run stuff like that. I think it's just a 3 yards and cloud of dust type of game with some play action shots off of it, because you're playing a team that, like Diante said, it's man coverage and cover 2. Cooper Kupp shreds man coverage usually, but is Stafford going to have enough time to get there? Is he have enough time to let him win if they do man coverage? What if they do lock him down? They run a robber and they rotate the guy down from the middle. And so basically he's double covered. Who's going to win? Allen Robinson has proven so far this year has shown that he is not winning against man coverage. So it is, man, they got to pray I really do think it's just they have to muck up this game and hope their defense can contain Cooper Rush. It's going to have to be a complimentary game from them. And also, I think there's going to be a lot of screens, so they can't let them tee off. But the thing is, does McVay have PTSD from that pick six to Havanga? So I think McVay's, I really trust him. He's one of the best designer of a game plan, and all the stuff that he changes throughout the years. He really is going to have to earn his money this week. I really do. And it really do think that. So it's going to be interesting how they going against a defense that literally has the best answers for what they want to do on offense.
It feels like 6 or 7 Tyler Higbee screens in this game.
Yeah,
just getting to those play action screens and misdirection. The Cowboys run defense has actually been good on a success rate level this year, play in and play out, but they've gotten gashed on the ground a few different times.
Yep.
So I think hopefully, you catch them in the right look, you get 1 or 2 explosive runs, and you combine that with, some cheap gains in the screen game. And again, just trying to keep this thing from falling apart for 4 quarters, because this just feels like the type of game that could get away from them. And Nate, my concern here is that, like Diante alluded to, when the Bills beat this team the way that they did, it's like, okay, that's the blueprint.
Yep.
But if teams can start blitzing them and not having to worry, then it feels like we're getting into a pretty dicey situation for the Rams offense, because if you're getting beat 2 different ways, now you're running out of answers.
Exactly.
If you're getting blitzed, the best way to stop a defense from blitzing, Diante knows this, is gash them. Hey, they don't want to hitting 20-yard bombs on them and just over and over and over. If they're blitzing you and you have to get the ball out quick and check it down, they rally and tackle, they'll just keep doing it all day. So and then you only have one guy that can really answer that, because sometimes if they're blitzing, you got to keep Higbee in. You got to keep the tight end helping out with protection in some way, shape, or form. So this is why we got so, I think, frustrated this offseason. It's like, why would you go with a guy like Robinson? This is where you need juice, a guy that can beat man or take a 5-yard catch and break a tackle and get 20 yards on it. So it's like you said, it's the blueprint. And last year they were able to get away with it. It's not like Robert Woods is taking the top off the coverage at the beginning of the year. OBJ helped at the end of the year. But if you're hitting 18-yard dig routes against the blitz, that's really frustrating for a defensive coordinator. But they're not doing that so far this year. It's the Cup. It's Cup, a little bit of Higbee, and that's the offense right now.
Diante, if you're a defensive coordinator, you get to pick one pass rush to build a game plan around right now. Is it the Niners or the Cowboys?
Oh, that is such an unfair question. Jesus Christ. Honestly, going back to what I saw on Monday night, I might lean 49ers just because of the versatility you get with Warner. If people obviously have their takes on how you feel about linebackers and their value or whatever, but I would really recommend that people go back and watch what 54 did for the 49ers on Monday. Not only in terms of setting up those 5-man rushes with twists, one of which opened up the Nick Bosa sack that we mentioned. They ran another one that got him a half sack, with Charles Omenihu and Eric Armstead.
My guy.
Your guy.
And then being able to drop into coverage, and not just dropping into coverage like, hey, I can sit in the window, but I can find Cooper Kupp and drop 15, 18 yards deep and take that away, while also being able to recognize, okay, when you're doing that, you want the tight end on the angle route on the check down, I can bait you and almost get a pick 6 on that as well. So I would probably go 49ers, not only for what they have in terms of a front four with pass rush, especially on the interior with the Omenihu, with Givens, with Armstead, but also having Fred Warner as a do whatever the hell you want kind of guy to kind of set everything else up.
I want to add on, watching Warner in that game, the Niners will run just quarters, and a way to beat quarters is you run an inside high-low. So you bait the linebacker to come up or down. Watch Warner on a string cover this stuff. It is
Hive mind.
It's remarkable. It is one of the coolest things. It's not, the ball won't even go that way, so you won't notice it. But that's why the ball doesn't go that way. His heat map, the heat map when they're in those coverages must be incredible, where it looks like he's going against Russell Wilson every game. There's just nothing over the middle, but that's what he does. He just reads this stuff over the middle, and that's why they can get away with it, because quarterbacks are like, all right, I'm going to bait him. I'm going to bait. Shit, come on, open up. There's no dig to open up, because he's just like, all right. His recognition is tremendous. And honestly, Bosa, Parsons, and Diante and I talked about this last night. It's like Fred Warner's on the podium right now for Defensive Player of the Year. Even if the stats aren't always there, what he is doing is remarkable. It's really, really cool.
Legitimately the most valuable player on defense in the league right now.
It is. Yep.
The Niners get Baker Mayfield this week. We're not going to talk about that game. I'm genuinely concerned.
Grab a shovel
for Baker Mayfield's well-being in this game.
Grab a shovel.
there's a chance that the Niners offense, I cannot be trusted right now based on what their offensive line looks like. And I think playing against the Panthers defense that just does weird shit, this could be an ugly game that could go a bunch of different ways. But what the Niners defense is going to look like against the Panthers offense, I'm truly concerned for what might happen in this game.
It's going to be so ugly. And I want to talk about one more play. I tweeted this, and this is just how well coached that Niners defense is. I know we're talking about the Cowboys and the Rams right now.
Somehow we got out of the Niners defense. It's fine.
But it's awesome. I want to shoehorn this in because there's
Partially
just a simple play with the Rams. They're running duo, and they're just dialed in what McVay wants to run. So they're running duo, and Hufanga late rotates, and Dre Greenlaw doesn't bump over until the very last second. And this sounds so just like niche and everything. But because of this late rotation, I mean, literally the last second they rotate down. So when you have a safety weak rotating, one that tells usually is the linebackers are kicked over. They wait until the last second to kick over, and he rotates down. What it does to a play like duo, because the double team works to the will on the chalkboard, which is now Hufanga, it messed it all up just by rotating late. So they have these amazing players, and they have stuff dialed in. It's one of the cooler plays I saw. It was just a 1-yard gain for the Rams. It wasn't like a TFL or a forced fumble, but it was just this cool thing that how scheme with guys sprinting around on every play just blows stuff up. And that's what we saw on Monday night.
All right, you guys managed to shoehorn a 10-minute Niners defense conversation into a matchup conversation about the Rams and the Cowboys. So, Diante,
my
that's
job here is done.
Yeah,
I know. You're just trying to spread the gospel. All right, buddy. We
got
will
to play
talk
Tommy
to you.
Trumpet when Diante comes on. Just the closer. Bring him in. This is amazing.
We will chat with you on Monday. If you guys have not checked out the Monday Hangover that we do every single Monday afternoon, me and Diante chatting about some of the games we did not hit on the Sunday night recap show. It's really fun. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. We do it live on YouTube at 3:30 p.m. Eastern every Monday, and is also available as a podcast. So please give that a listen. Diante, we will talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, guys. How we going?
See you, bud.
All right. Before we move on, we're going to take a quick break and talk about two offenses that are intriguing us, even if they're a little bit confusing so far.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it checking on your credit score? Didn't think so. At Chime, that's exactly what they do. With their secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can start to build credit with your own money. Chime reports your payments to credit bureaus to help you build credit over time. Their members see an increase of 30 points on average. All of this with no annual fees, large security deposits, or credit checks to apply. So start your credit journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/maze. That's chime.com/maze. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by Stride Bank N.A. pursuant to a license from Visa USA. Chime checking account and $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive impact on your credit score. Impact to score may vary, and some user scores may not improve. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply except at MoneyPass ATMs in a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM.
The conversation around mental health in sports has never been more productive than it is right now, whether it's athletes taking time off, getting in peak mental shape, just getting themselves mentally prepared and ready to go. More athletes are speaking out about the importance of mental health, but you don't have to be a pro to want to be at the top of your game. Everyone needs to take care of their mental well-being, whether you're an athlete or not. And therapy is the best way to keep yourself in mental shape. I'm a huge proponent of weekly therapy. I've been going for a long time. It's a great way to check in with yourself, perform some maintenance on where you are and where you want to go. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you're ready to feel at the top of your mental health game, therapy can help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/maze today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/mays.
It makes no damn sense. Compels me though.
Yes.
So that's from Knives Out. If you guys don't know, the reason that I wanted Beller to play that drop is that when I was thinking about the schedule this week and I was looking at these two units we're about to talk about, it's all I could think about. Makes no sense. Compels me though. And these are the donut hole games. These are the donut hole offenses that we're going to talk about. And we're going to start with the New York Giants, who are not a great offense, but they are not a bad offense. And I think that's really important. I think they're sitting at 18th in EPA per play on offense right now. And when you look at the receivers they're trotting out, how I don't even know how to describe their offensive line. It's a hodgepodge, right? Like Andrew Thomas is a superstar now. Like he is incredible. But other than that, like Feliciano's a journeyman and you know, they're trying to figure out what their left guard situation is. And Glinski's fine. And Evan Neal hopefully has a high ceiling, but he's had some rough moments as he gets going. They have David Sills and the corpse of Kenny Galladay at receiver with Sterling Shepard out now. Kadarius Toney seems like he's never going to play again. And somehow they are fielding a competitive NFL offense when they should be a bottom 3 unit in the league in every conceivable way. So how is this happening? How are the Giants a functional offense right now?
Well, Saquon Barkley being healthy. Really
that helps.
That helps. And they are not making it like they're not trying to hide the fact that he's their best player. They're like him under center. It's like a traditional run game, which is really fun. A lot of high formation stuff and all that. And also they have a tight end playing quarterback in Daniel Jones and using his legs like a weapon. They realize that the best weapons they have on offense are Saquon Barkley's legs and Daniel Jones's legs. And it works. It's working. It's somehow piecing together a successful offense so far.
The Giants offense is 12 and 13 personnel, runs and play actions.
That's it.
That's what it is. They have more runs out of 12 and 13 personnel than any other team in the NFL so far this season. Daniel Jones is using play action on 41.6% of his dropbacks. That is the third highest mark in the league behind Marcus Mariota, who runs a fake offense built on play action, and Tua, who is the way that they've used play action over the last couple of years is certainly an outlier. We talked about this last week with Mariota. Only 2 quarterbacks since 2012, according to PFF's data, have cracked 40% play action on their dropbacks. And Daniel Jones is sitting at 41.6. But it's not just the fact that they're using play action.
No.
They're using boots off of these run concepts.
Yep.
And when he's getting out in space, occasionally there will be some easy throws, just created in normal ways, levels concepts and stuff that we see all the time. But he's running constantly when they're doing this. So far this season, the Giants have 14 runs from the quarterback on play action passes that were called. No one else in the league has more than 7. So they have twice as many as any other team in the league. The Giants this season have created 21 first. Oh, by the way, on those 14, 9 have gone for first downs of those 14 runs. The Giants this year on quarterback runs have created 21 first downs. No other team in the league has more than 15.
That's amazing.
What they're doing with him as a runner is insane. It is one of the best weapons that they have. And it all makes sense. It's heavy play action.
Yep.
When you look at the touchdown he had against the Bears last week, the ball handling and the details of what this looks like, it's not sustainable. You can't build an NFL offense out of this over the course of 17 weeks and be a good team, but it is the perfect utilization of who they have on their offense and what their specific skill sets are.
I made the joke in the pre-show that it's this offense is how I pictured the Bills offense if Josh Allen didn't become Josh Allen. Like that is what it is. Just use this big guy who has a great athlete. Let's use his legs and get going on it. Daniel Jones is highest first down per rush rate for all players for 20 more rushes, highest with 30 or more rushes. 58.1% of his rushes have gone for a first down. Josh Allen's at 50%. Lamar's at 40%. Like it's ridiculous. And that boot stuff ties in because their under center run game has been pretty solid. And Barkley helps with a lot of it. Barkley's 5th in adjusted yards after contact behind Aaron Jones, Rashad Penny, Khalil Mack, and Dick Chubb. So it's a good list. And so when they do this under center runs with these heavy actions, like you said, not even just wadding it up, but on the boot stuff, under center, play action, bootleg, those DNs are screaming down the line of scrimmage going, I got to go tackle Saquon. I got to go get him. And then here comes Daniel Jones with nobody on the picture near him. So he has the opportunity to use his legs and go. And once in a while, they'll do the QB zone read game, and it looks good. You know, like that's another little way they could sprinkle it in. And it's actually kind of fun. That Bears Giants game was hilarious because it felt like I was watching something from 1996.
Yeah.
Like that's what those two offenses were like. And that's what happens when you have those types of pieces, when you have nobody to throw to. And hey, these guys can run, so let's use it a little bit. And I do want to speak to Saquon. Like, he's a boomer bust running back. That's kind of what he's always going to be. But under center, he is a man, he's so much fun to watch when they go under center. Like just he's a classic I formation back, and it's cool to see a guy like that. Nick Chubb can kind of run anything. Saquon, though, he's 5th worst in the league from shotgun as far as success rate, and then he's about league average from under center. With that O-line and what they're doing, that's pretty significant. But he is just, man, he just looks good. Like he looks healthy, and he had the one screen, I believe, where he reverses field and gets a big explosive play. So, but that's what this offense is, and it's kind of fun. Even before they had to do the Wildcat last week, like it's a pretty fun run game to watch.
Yeah, the plan makes sense, even though it's incredibly strange to watch it all play out. And you talk about it. This is what the offense would look like if Josh Allen never became Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So far this season, on play action dropbacks, the Giants are 8th in EPA per dropback on those plays. They are tied with the Panthers for the worst passing game in the league when they have to drop back without play action. So they just can't do it. And it makes sense. Their quarterback isn't very good. They have no one to throw the ball to.
Nope.
So this is what they've built the offense out of. And now they're about to play against the Packers defense that can't really stop the run. So now we have this team that maybe could move the ball on Green Bay, and maybe this game could be closer than it might seem. I know this is a matchup of 2 3-1 teams, but eventually the Giants are going to run out of gas. But I think what they have done so far is a signal because look at what the look at what the Giants offense is. And look what the Bills offense was under Brian Daboll over the last couple of years. This is 2 completely different things. Mike Kafka who's the offensive coordinator, was in Kansas City, and what that offense looks like. So the fact that they're just leaning into this version of it, I think is such a testament to a coaching staff that's just saying, what can work? What are we doing? How do we make this happen?
Understanding personnel. That's what it is. Understanding what you got. Hey, everybody wants Mahomes. Everybody wants Davante Adams. Everybody wants these guys, but we don't have it. So what can make it work? Like, yes, it's almost it's a see what we got type of offense. I think really that's what they're doing. They're just like, this is what we got. Let's see what we can do if we put you in good spots, and this is what it looks like. It speaks to them though that they didn't square peg round hole it. Like, I mean, we're going to talk about, but like the Panthers offense, like you watch McAdoo acting like he still got the 2014 Packers when he was the offensive coordinator, like spreading it out and running quick game like he has Aaron Rodgers back there. It's like, good coaches understand their personnel, try and put them in good spots. And that's what they're doing in New York.
Andrew Thomas, by the way, there was a play where he was on the backside of it. The zone running game. I think one of the other reasons that they've really they fuck with defensive ends and edge players is they run a lot of split zone out of those 12 and 13 personnel looks. So those guys are just like, they know they're getting whacked every other time they run those plays. Just that little bit of indecision, you can just feel them creating it on defense. But there was on the backside of a run play, Andrew Thomas blocked 2 guys on the same play. He had his left hand on the edge, and then the linebacker was coming across, and he just shoved both of them with one hand each. It's like Trent Williams shit. Right. And the fact that he's turning into that sort of player, his growth as a pass protector was obvious last season.
Yeah.
But if he's going to be a weapon in the run game and just be one of the best left tackles in football, that is very good news for this team as they're looking for building block pieces over the next year or so as they're figuring out, all right, what do we have? What do we want to be? And how can we build it out of those skill sets?
It's pretty awesome to see. Like he had the pedigree and draft pedigree, but I mean, his rookie year was so rough. And then last year, of course, like you just said, he has the growth, but turning into, I mean, bona fide all pro level left tackle.
Totally.
That's what that's not hyperbole. That is what he's playing like right now. So that's what this team is. They're just figuring out what they got. And right there, they got a bona fide left tackle, and that's always fun.
All right. Our next offense we want to talk about here. We talked about it a little bit on Sunday and the crazy Seahawks-Lions game. I want to talk about the Seahawks with Geno Smith. And just simple question to start this off. What is allowing them to do this? Like, what about their offense or Geno's play has allowed them to be the 5th most efficient passing offense in the league on a pure dropback basis, on a per dropback basis with Geno Smith at quarterback? How is this happening?
It's well schemed stuff. They run a little bit of everything, and Geno Smith operating within the confines of the offense. It's him actually reading stuff out from the pocket. It's him only tucking a run when he has to. I would say this little snapshot stat is like kind of like speaks to it. Is we talked about, we kind of were getting a little worried when Russ went to the Broncos and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to run a bunch of empty with him. We're like, are you sure that's a good thing? Russ was 26th in empty dropbacks last year as far as EPA. He's 19th this year with the Broncos. Geno's 8th per empty dropback this year. And when you watch him play, and I know you highlighted this play too when we were talking about it, was they're in this empty drop back and they're hitting the dig routes. They're running high lows. Usually when you're in empty, you run two different concepts on each side. Sometimes it's pure progression, but usually it's a 3-man concept to one side and a 2-man concept to the other side. And usually that 2-man concept is some type of high low. It's someone underneath, someone coming across, because usually in empty, you're usually getting a too high look or a pressure. That's kind of, I'm bucketing it, but generally. So
because defenses typically have a check when teams are in empty. So you often you know what's coming.
You have 2 or 3 plays, usually 2 or 3 defenses you have to worry about. And once in a while you get a little change up and you're always like, what the hell is that? But okay, against the Lions, you know what the Lions do when you're in empty? Quarters. Okay. How do you attack quarters? Okay, we're going to go high low. We're going to tie down the underneath defender, run a dig behind it. Russ wouldn't hit that. Russ would throw something on the outside, or you throw the underneath something, or underneath route that's at 5 yards. Gino's sitting there in the pocket, looking beautiful in the pocket, by the way. I know we want to talk about that, and just ripping dig routes in tight pockets, just ripping a dig route to DK Metcalf. I didn't know DK would be this good over the middle. I thought he was going to be a go ball merchant his whole career, maybe catch some slants and get him downhill. But oh my God, he looks so good over the middle of the field because he's such a big target. And you just get his legs going and boom, you just hit him. And it looks so good. And Gino's willing to throw that. Those are tough throws for quarterbacks because there's a lot of muck in the middle. And there's Gino just sitting back there and ripping those. So and then on top of that, they have the run game that looks really good and well-coached run game. And it's good design, but it's a quarterback that knows what he's trying to accomplish on every play because that's what they're scheming it up for.
That dig route, that high low out empty was one of the plays I highlighted as well. And he rips that thing on time. And there are 3 other throws that we're talking about just ripping it from that game that really jumped out to me. The touchdown to Will Dissly, he throws that ball before Dissly even starts turning around. And they know they're getting man coverage in that situation. And he's just willing to let he uncorks it. And it's beautiful. Dissly turns. It's a back shoulder throw against man coverage in the red zone. It's gorgeous. I don't even know how you trust that quickly. Right. I mean, that's just something where maybe in practice, it's something they knew they got that look when they ran that play. It was out of 12 personnel, it was play action. And they just knew, all right, if he's walked down and we have him one-on-one, I can throw this back shoulder and it's going to be on time. And it was a beautiful touchdown. There was another one on the left side and then a DK where DK against press coverage looks awesome right now. He's just so big and physical. So he has a release against Jeff Okudah where he just gives him a swipe with his right hand to kind of create that final separation. And Gino rips it instantly. And it looks like it's a tiny bit underthrown. But part of the reason I think is because he's keeping that thing on such a line that he's taking the post safety out of the equation with the way that he's throwing that ball. Just instantly throwing it on that trajectory. And DK takes it all the way down into the red zone. And then there was another one, and it was an inside release too. DK has an inside release and he just puts it on him instantly because you can't loft it outside of the numbers. Correct. And there was another deep shot that he hit to DK where DK instantly jams Okudah off the line of scrimmage with 2 hands and he controls the play physically. Think about what Okudah did to Justin Jefferson in that game and how much he was physically pushing him around at the snap. That was not happening with DK Metcalf. And when you have a guy who's trusting, all right, I have him one-on-one, I'm going to take this instantly. That is jumping out to me. And the other thing is, talk about being statuesque. What he is doing under pressure in the pocket right now, I think is such a huge difference compared to what he looked like last year. So Geno Smith last season, among quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks, turned 29.5% of his pressures into sacks. It was the highest rate in the NFL. This year, it's 13%. He's 25th in the league. So when he's pressured, not only is it not turning into bad plays, he has the second highest adjusted completion percentage in the league when pressured this year. How he's navigating the pocket and throwing in these kind of condensed, mucky spaces is really impressive. And what it reminds me of watching Ryan Tannehill at times, where you have guys in his face and guys bearing down on him, and he's getting that thing off cleanly and with authority. He's comfortable. He's playing with confidence. Everything about watching him right now is just impressive. And it's not like only under pressure is some of this stuff being successful. In clean pockets, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's the stuff that is projectionable moving forward. So on every single level, he's just playing quarterback the way you want him to right now.
Right. And usually you say he's a statue in the pocket as a diss. I mean it as a compliment because it's I said before, he's like a Roman statue. It's pretty. Like he would stand he's standing tall in the pocket because he's keeping his eyes downfield and he's not guessing. Like, you know what he's trying to accomplish on each play. It's like, oh man, you're you're really guessing, hoping somebody comes open. That's where I'll knock some quarterbacks. I could be like, that dude's really hoping someone comes open, someone comes into his picture. No, he's going, all right, here comes my dig. All right, let me move in the pocket. Let me avoid this and then get it down. This is why I like Trevor Lawrence. Same thing, keeps his eyes downfield while he's moving in the pocket. And that Disley throw is such a perfect example, is because red zone, throwing the ball in the red zone is all about timing. It's about having a plan. It's knowing where I'm attacking and ripping it. It's the windows are so tight down there, and defenses know that they're so tight, so they know what you're trying to do. So really, you have to throw guys open a lot of times or anticipate, and that's really hard for a lot of quarterbacks to do. Geno, that throw to Disley is exactly that. It's 1, 2, 3. He knows where he's going with it, and he's ripping the throw, and that's why he's able to operate out of empty. It's because same when he threw that go ball to DK. I know I talked about him attacking the middle. That's 1, 2, 3, ball out. You can get a vertical passing concepts out of empty when the quarterback is operating on time and not taking extra hitches. And that's what Geno's doing right now. And on top of it, they got an awesome run game with one of the best running backs in the league right now, Rashad Penny. And it's well coached, and you understand what they're trying to do every play. And so it's a really fun offense to watch that's sound with a quarterback operating at a really high level.
Yeah, he's just fun to watch right now, and he's just playing the position at a super high level, and that's really all there is to say about it. And they're playing against the Saints team this week, where the defense has been good, but I think it's a really good test for them. But I think that they're going to be an offense that gives people a lot of problems over the course of the season if they just continue to play like this.
If you're not sound on defense, they'll shred you. They're gonna make you pay, because there's playing so just well coached football right now.
It's so funny that you talk about how he's searching for things, and that's he's trying to keep plays alive because he knows what's coming open against the looks that he's getting. And that's why he's standing in, because he's like, I know that if I can will this to happen, it's going to come open if I just wait more half a beat and hang in the pocket and try to get that off. And the toughness that takes to play like that is incredible. And that last year was a detriment. He was holding on to stuff for too long. But this year, the fact that he's willing to kind of wait just that half second and it's not creating negative plays, I think this is the final result that you're getting from that.
Usually when you get some, not Geno's unknown, but some quarterback out of nowhere, it's because they're running around. Like Huntley last year, it's running around and making plays. You're ad-libbing, and they're creating plays out of nothing. All this is coming in structure. And then Geno only runs. Geno's a good athlete. He only runs when he has to. And it's just because he's getting through. He's on his fourth read. He's 1 to 2 to 3. All right, well, I'm going to go run now. And he eats up yards when he's running. So that's what it is. It's just, it's a really fun to watch an offense operate in structure. And Geno's just one of the better ones in the league right now at doing it.
All right, we're going to get to a game now that is pretty much an athletic football show bowl. This one's for us.
One of us, one of us, one of us, one of us.
All right. Use that one. It's so funny.
Okay. Browns hosting the Chargers. I almost said San Diego Chargers, by the way. Hosting the Chargers this week. What is the number one thing you were looking for in this game?
The run games on both teams, but the Browns run game especially. I love watching them. They're one of my favorites. Any Bill Callahan offensive line is going to be fun to watch. And this offensive line and this run game with Nick Chubb and Hunt is one of the most fun ones to watch. And it's something we complimented the Lions offense a few weeks ago. The Browns are doing the same thing, is that they run everything. It's not just zone. It's pin pull where they have two guys pulling to the outside. It's gap scheme where they have power, old school power, and they're running it. And it's well coached. And it gets a Chargers defense that, it could be gashed. That's where there might be some fireworks, but it's going to happen on the run game.
So the Chargers defense was dead last in the NFL in rush defense success rate in 2021. We know this. The run defense was an absolute disaster. We all remember the Texans game. They're 11th this season. They've gotten better. They did so much to build up their personnel in the middle of their defense and improve against the run, and they have. So they're 11th in success rate, but they're 31st in yards per carry allowed. How does that happen? Right? How is that possible? I'm glad you asked. There have been 12 runs of 50-plus yards in the NFL this year. The Chargers have allowed 3 of them. They've allowed 25% of the 50 or more yard runs in the league this season. You know them. There was the Dameon Pierce run last week. Yep. It was the James Robinson disgusting, why are you in this defense run when they played the Jags? And it was the run in the second half by Clyde Edwards-Helaire when they played against the Chiefs. So,
who runs a 4-7?
Even if they've been better play in and play out, now you're playing against a Browns D offense and a Browns running game that they will hit that 80-yarder on you. That it happens way too often. So you're playing against a team that is number 1 in the league in rushing EPA against a running game that, while better and more consistent, has given up some big plays. So that's definitely something to watch.
And the Browns aren't one of those teams where it's like, sometimes I get frustrated with like Andy Reid, where it's like, please run the ball here. Please, please. They know what the strength of their team is.
Yes.
So that's the thing. They are going to test this run defense. They go, oh, you're improved, huh? Well, try this out. Try this out. So I'm very excited to see how they manipulate it, what shifts and motions they do, what formations they run, like what is their flavor of this week and how they poke and prod this Chargers defense. That's what's going to be exciting to see, because you make one mistake, Nick Chubb is getting 30, 40, or a 50-yard run on you. And it's not like they put in the backup and they drop off that much. It's like, nope, here comes reinforcements who's just going to do the same thing. So I think this might be a 30-plus type of run game. There might be a short game, at least for the Browns offense anyways, how quickly that goes.
Well, when you flip it to the other side, you would think that the Chargers would want to run the ball in this game after what the Falcons did. The Browns have been a bottom 3 team in the league in success rate on defense against the run. They've been a bad rush defense, just like objectively bad. Clowney's been out. Myles Garrett missed last week. But even beyond that, they have not been able to defend the run. The Chargers running game has been terrible. They have been so inefficient running the ball. I think they're 31st in rushing rushing DVOA this season. If the Chargers can't run the ball against this Browns team, we have problems. Yep. We have problems. And I that is another thing that I'm absolutely watching in this game. The other thing on that side of the ball, Jamari Salyer played very well in his debut last week. He was playing against the Texans and their pass rushers. Now he likely gets Myles Garrett. So I think we're going to learn a lot about how sustainable is the offensive line and left tackle play for the Chargers with Rashawn Slater out for the course of the season.
And why it's frustrating that the Chargers run game is just like it is. It's just like, why are you the way you are? It's the Babadook, because they, with their passing game, it gets really frustrating. As amazing as Herbert, if Herbert wasn't their quarterback, and I know you could say this about a lot of top tier quarterbacks, but if Herbert wasn't their quarterback, we would be talking about this offense as like the Panthers. Like, as far as just guys doing the wrong things, I'll knock off a couple plays here. There's a 3rd 12 early against the Texans. They went empty with the chip out. Well, we talk about the Rams doing all the time. All 3 routes were at 10 yards. They were short of the sticks. So if you're going to run a 7-step concept, why is every route at 10 yards? A 7-step concept, the routes are at 16 to 22. Like, they are deep, or 18 to 22. I'm sorry.
You're chipping in order to give yourself time to get down the field.
Correct. And then you check it down. That's where the high low is created there. But okay, so then they have a 3rd and 6. The next series, Herbert completes it because he's a monster. Completes it when there's 2 guys literally right next to each other, Gerald Everett and DeAndre Carter, literally right next to each other, running the same route. And I'm like, how does that happen? Like, if you want to be this quote unquote efficient Sean Payton light offense, those offenses in New Orleans were so freaking well coached. Whoever was in there, that's why they had a lot of smart players. That's why they got Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is one of the smartest running backs in the league. It's because he could handle all the formation changes and everything. But then you watch this Chargers offense. If you're going to be, okay, we're going to be efficient, not explosive, and we're going to be static, we're going to do all this, you can't have stuff like they run a naked Joshua Palmer, who I feel like is a decently smart player. He doesn't know that he's supposed to go in motion. They did a back and forth jet motion with him. He's looking at Herbert's like, hey, you're coming back. Okay, so that's always an issue. The tight ends are always busting in the run game. You always see Trey McKitty looking back going like, oh, shoot, that's my guy, as a guy screams through in the run game. And then right before the half, Herbert has a brilliant throw, a corner route. Of course he does. He hits a freaking corner pocket throw against the Texans playing cover 2. It's like stereotype on stereotype. It's Herbert hitting a corner shot versus Lovie Smith running cover 2. So he hits his throw. Why this corner is sinking underneath the throw is they have no flat controller. When you run a corner route, you have to that's why smash is a high-low. It's an outside high-low. There's no low. It's just a high route. So you have nothing tying down the corner. So the corner actually he should sink even further. He's sinking. Herbert's a monster, hits the throw. It's like, God, this offense, I want to strangle people. Like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like they want to say that there's a efficient, well-coached team, but all these players are messing up over and over, or they're not being taught the right things. And Herbert's bailing them out a lot of times. So it's a very frustrating offense.
One of the things I've been thinking about, I said this on a show earlier this week, is that in this world where offenses have been less efficient this year, and you have depressed offense.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge chasm between the offenses that have a ton of negative plays, not just that we're limiting explosives. How many negative plays do you have? How many sacks are you taking? How many catastrophic things are where it's 3rd and 18 all the time, or not even, that's even a drastic thing, where it's 3rd and 11 consistently. That is why, even in a world where we haven't seen them reach any highs, the Chargers have been one of the most efficient offenses in the league. There are 0 negative plays. Okay. He is taking sacks on 6.3% of his dropbacks this season, or of his pressures, excuse me. 6.3% of his pressures have turned into dropbacks. Pressures, not dropbacks. Pressures have turned into dropbacks this season for Justin Herbert. That's the lowest rate in the NFL. He has thrown 1 interception, and it is the pick 6 that we had discourse on for some reason, that where Gerald Everett was too tired to run his route.
God.
So those are the negative plays. He's been sacked 4 times on a 6.3% of his pressures clip, and he's thrown 1 interception, and that's one we know. Mahomes is the same way. Yep. Even if we're not seeing these like firework explosive stuff from these guys this year because of the way the defenses are playing, if you have an offense that's creating no negative plays, it's such a huge advantage, because you're looking at, they're tied for the league lead. They're tied. This is disgusting. Herbert, 6.3% of his pressures are turning into sacks. What do you think Justin Fields and Matt Ryan are at? Tied at the top of the league.
Oh God. I don't even know, because I feel like Fields is just like an extraordinary, like crazy.
30.6%.
I was going to say 22, and I thought that would be
30.6% of Justin Fields and Matt Ryan's pressures are turning into sacks, according to PFF. Justin Herbert is at 6. Patrick Mahomes is at 7. That right there, those are different sports.
Yeah.
What your quarterback is allowing you to do in those moments. And I really do feel like that. And Baker Mayfield's at 25%. Joe Burrow's at 27%.
What's Trevor Lawrence at? Good radio. Sorry.
14%. He's 23rd in the NFL. Okay. Josh Allen is 24th. I mean, these are guys that are down near the bottom there. We always talked about Geno in that stat this year. Yeah. Jared Goff is at 10%. Think about the offenses that are over. Jacoby Brissett, 12.5%. Look at all of the offenses passing games. Like, why are they better than they should be? Like, why are the Lions and the Browns and the Seahawks, why are these passing games so much better than we expected? Because there have been no negative plays.
Right.
That is the difference this year between so many of these offenses, is that the ceiling of these teams is lower, but if your floor is higher, you're inherently going to have a huge advantage over some of these other teams. And that's what it feels like watching some of these offenses right now.
Because the 2 goals of offense are staying on schedule, which is efficiency usually, or explosives. So if you're not getting explosives, at least don't have the negative plays. That is such a great point, because that is so true. And that's a cheat code. Like, that's why Mahomes is ridiculous, because it's like he doesn't take those plays, and then he creates plays when everyone else messes up, and then he does stuff in structure. Like, that's why those guys are cheat codes. That's why, man, that's such a great point, because even though the run game's not doing jack shit, it's at least the passing game can at least stay on schedule, because Herbert's a fucking supercomputer.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what teams are doing. We talked about the Cowboys earlier, this marriage of rush and pass rush, of coverage and pass rush, where it's like we're making you take beats and we're making you take sacks.
Yep.
Can you avoid that? If you can avoid that, you already are starting at a huge advantage. I think we've seen that a lot. All right, let's get to our next segment here. We're going to go under the hood with the Falcons offense really quick.
I better check under the hood.
All right, so this has been a negative connotation segment over the last few weeks, but it doesn't have to be. We're just going under the hood and seeing how something's working. I want to talk about the Falcons offense and kind of how they've managed to run the ball in the way that they have, despite not having elite personnel. They have Cordell Patterson running the ball, or some combination of Caleb Huntley and Tyler Algier at the end of last week's game, and they ran for an entire drive to win the game essentially against the Browns. They have Chris Lidstrom is a good player. Caleb McGarry had a very good game against the Browns last week. But this is not the 2016 Dallas Cowboys offensive line that's walking through that door right now. Yet, they are second in the league in rushing success rate on offense. They're 7th in EPA per rush. They're 60% of their runs were successful last week against the Browns, which was the highest rate of the week. It would be by far the highest rate in the league over the course of the season. How is this happening? How are the Falcons running the ball like this with the personnel that they have on that side of the ball?
I'm glad you brought up McGarry, by the way, because he's honestly, if they did most improved award in the NFL, like he would be up there and this is how they're using him though. I would say they understand, again, this is kind of a theme of this episode is understanding your personnel. And I know there's frustrations with Kyle, more just fancy people being nut jobs, but it's just that it's Kyle Pitts' usage in the passing game. But this is where Kyle Pitts and his unicorn ability of being literally an X receiver as well as a tight end and what he can do creates advantages for the rest of the offense. No offense in the league other than the Falcons have run 11, 21, 12, and 22 personnel, 15% or more of their plays. They've also run 13 personnel, almost 10% of their plays. They use all this personnel groupings to their advantage because they are, we say, holding the pen last. They're dictating what they want. If they trot out 13 personnel there with 3 tight ends and the defense matches with base, well, guess what? Kyle Pitts is a receiver right now, and we're going to split them out and we're going to run a dagger concept. But okay, now we're in 13 personnel or even 12 personnel, and you're going to match with nickel. Well, guess what? There's Kyle Pitts with his hand in the ground, and we're going to run. Cordell Patterson had it was a zone run, just walking back, where he wound up play back on the inside zone and ran for a touchdown. On that play, though, they went 12 personnel. The Browns matched with nickel, and then they went hip slot out of it. So Pitts was a tight end, and they just ran like a little zone.
It's 2 tight ends lined up on the same side.
Yes. Sorry. Hip slot is 2 tight ends on the same side, and a slot, 2 receivers on the other side. So it's a great kind of run base down look because you make the defense dictate what they want to do, and you can tell what coverage it is. But so they run zone with it with a little bubble to London to the field. But because the defense is matching with nickel, it's a really light box. So it was just a nice, juicy run look, and Patterson did the rest on it. So that is just one way that they are using this personnel to their advantage. And on top of it, their main fastball is outside zone, but the changeups that they throw as well, they have so many junk pitches, and they know when to run it and know how to dictate and get you into the look that they want. They'll go 11 personnel. Pitts won't even be on the field, and they'll have a different tight end in there, and they'll run like basically a pistol I formation look out of 11 personnel. So 3 wides, but then also they're running an I formation, like lead zone look. Okay. And then they'll go, all right, so now we're going to go 21 personnel. Okay. So now we got a fullback in there, a tight end there, 2 receivers. We're looking, I formation here. Okay. Here comes toss outside zone. They love run this with Patterson, but then they'll run a pin pull with Drake London pinning the D end, pulling the tackle around.
He's a very willing blocker. They've used him in that way several different times this year.
And he wants to block. I'm Drake London's awesome. I love London. He's like my favorite type of receiver, man. Like he is. He's awesome. So, but then they'll pin him, so they know their changeups. It's like Greg Maddux, man. Like they just know how to place pitches, know how to change up the pitches. That's what Arthur Smith is as a play caller and a play designer. This is just the run game. We talked about the play action game last week, but it's just understanding what they are doing, what they want to do. And then on top of it, this play, I came across it last week, and they ran against Seattle too. They're running like wind back plays with their center pulling backwards, weak side. And again, it's a changeup off their outside zone look. And so they just get you where they want you, and they pin you. So they're getting their guys, and all this zone and all this play action stuff helps their offensive line. So even if you have lesser talent, quote unquote, on the O line, they don't have to work as hard. We're not dropping back 30 plus times a game and making you hold up against banshees coming at you on the outside. No, we get you on the move, elephants on parade. We get you kind of like pulling, and you have the DN kind of like hesitating, and you can just widen them outside the play. So it's awesome. Like this offense is so much fun because it's so unique. And yes, if they have a bad game script and they have to drop back a bunch of times, they're not going to look good. They are not.
Well, that's why it was so impressive last week, is that they were essentially like, we can't throw it. So the drive that preceded them running all those times, he threw that pick to Denzel Ward who was manned up on Kyle Pitts. We'll talk about Kyle Pitts in a second. I think he has a hamstring injury that he's dealing with. So I think that's part of why he hasn't looked as explosive as we might want from him. But they essentially came out like, we can't throw the ball. We're 7 of 19. We're awful throwing it right now. We're just going to come out and run it every single play on this team that can't stop the run. And the willingness to do that and just say, like, this is the answer to the question currently posed to us. That is good coaching. And I think that they've done a really good job of that kind of stuff throughout the season so far.
Seriously. And against Seattle, they're like, hey, okay, these guys are screaming up, and the linebackers aren't communicating as well. So let's run these play action stuffs and hit them right behind it. Like these guys aren't looking up our tight ends sitting in the middle. So let's lean into that. It's knowing what parts of the game plan to tweak as the game goes along. And then, yeah, I mean, Mariota has been kind of frustrating because he makes like these stupid handoff mistakes and drops a snap. So maybe see Desmond Ridder in there, but but this offense though, it's like, it's just explosive in its own way. It's so much fun to just see a tight end and a receiver running a dagger concept that I just brought up with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins running it. The Falcons are doing this out of a heavy personnel look with Pitts running a deep dig. And I know he's banged up this week, but it's really cool how they use these special talents and put them in good spots.
Are you worried about him at all? 10 catches on 22 targets over the course of the year. He was barely a factor in the passing game last week. Are you concerned about his usage at all?
No, because I think there's going to be a time and place where they are going to use him and open him up. He'll have a game where he has 12 targets, like where I think it's just they haven't needed to so far in their games. And there's been times where they do dial up plays and Mariota misses the throw. Like the first play against the Seahawks, I could tell Arthur Smith was like, oh, hey, fancy guys, like double bird, Steve Austin, like stood on the turnbuckle, flicked him off. Play action. They ran Pitts on a deep post to take the top off the coverage, and Mariota overthrows him by like a yard. But if he catches that and scores, everyone will go, oh man, they know how to use Pitts, because then they had him on tight end, like tight end screens and doing other stuff. Like, I'm not too worried like about how they're going to use it, because I think there will be a time and place where he does have a high usage. I just think this is a very smart staff that wants to win games. They don't want to tank. I think Arthur Smith and them is a very competitive guy, and they just want to design good stuff. So I don't think they're trying to tank at all.
All right, I'm back. A little quick.
I did much better than last week, where I froze.
Just keep it rolling, buddy. Just
keep it rolling.
All right, we got one more break, and then we're going to get to Win My Fourth Screen. Style isn't like math. There isn't one correct answer for everyone. It's all about finding what's right for you. Finding the perfect suit is impossible, but finding a suit that's perfect for you is simple thanks to Indochino. Choose your favorite fabric and customize every detail to find the look that's perfect for you. Submit your measurements online or get measured in-store for a custom, made-for-you fit at an incredible price. And with their fall collection featuring new colors and premium fabrics, you'll be in style all season long. I have multiple Indochino suits that I've worn over the years to every event you can imagine. Weddings, parties. I love how fit it is to me, and I don't have to worry about getting it altered or changed. I bought a suit off the rack recently, and getting it altered cost a couple $100. It was such an ordeal. With Indochino, you never have to worry about it. Everything fits perfectly and is made to your exact specifications. You can get a premium personalized wardrobe without spending a fortune. Shop custom fitted shirts, casual wear, outerwear, and more. They're always adding new designs and fabric options, like their latest fall collection. Design your perfect suit with Indochino. To get $50 off any purchase of $3.99 or more, use promo code MAZE at Indochino.com. That's INDOCHINO.com, promo code MAYS. With Masterclass, you can learn from some of the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn cooking techniques from Gordon Ramsay, barbecue skills from Aaron Franklin, or filmmaking production from James Cameron. With over 150 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. I've taken a lot of the cooking classes, including the ones with Thomas Keller, and they've just made cooking a more enriching experience for me. When I have the basic skills down, understanding how knife skills work or how to make sauces, it makes the entire process more enjoyable. I find myself wanting to cook more than I ever have before. I highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as an Athletic Football Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/firstdown now. That's masterclass.com/firstdown for 15% off Masterclass. Reserve Bar is your online source for premium and luxury spirits, wine, and champagne. And now Reserve Bar offers same-day delivery. Reserve Bar has a vast lineup of rare and hard-to-find bottles, premium brands, celebrity spirits, and limited releases that you just won't find at your local store. No one does spirits gifting better than Reserve Bar. Looking for an elevated gift? ReserveBar.com has you covered, and you can have that gift delivered right to your door. The hot trend in spirits is ready-to-go cocktails. Have you tried these? They taste better than ever, and Reserve Bar now has a huge collection of them. These canned cocktails are great for parties when you don't have time to tend the bar, and ideal for tailgating season, which is already in full swing. Visit ReserveBar.com today and use promo code MAZE to save $10 off your purchase of $75 or more on spirits, wine, or pre-made cocktails, but only when you use our special offer at ReserveBar.com with code MAZE. That's ReserveBar.com, code MAYS. This offer expires December 31st, 2022.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
All right. For those of you unfamiliar, every single week I put up the fourth screen on my Sunday ticket for an argument, for a case to be made about why it should be the fourth game. I sent out the prompt a little bit late this week. I apologize for that. That's on me. Oh, we'll do better about that in the future. Our winner here is Nathaniel Bernhardt. Said, we're all going to grow old someday. Our bodies are going to break down and we're going to reminisce and tell stories about our younger days. When your grandchildren are gathered around you to hear your stories, you'll tell them about the time you witnessed the Bailey Zappi game. Bailey Zappi might start. The Lions defense is an abomination, and he easily could have a Mike White type moment. Don't miss your chance to be a part of that moment with a side order of a Matt Patricia revenge game. Which brings us to this week's Wick scale for revenge.
People keep asking if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Every time there's a revenge game in the league that we want to talk about, we're going to judge that game on a scale of 1 to 5 wicks for how much revenge is involved. This game is particularly fascinating because it's a reverse revenge game. Typically,
reverse revenge.
The person who gets fired or a franchise moves on from is the one who is able to exact revenge on his former employer. Here, I actually think the Lions have a case for exacting revenge on Matt Patricia and what he did to the organization. And with that in mind, I'm giving this 4 out of 5 wicks.
Love it.
Lions side in their revenge against Matt Patricia in this game.
I think they're going to burn his ATV in the middle of the field. Like that's, you remember that thing he had to do when he was in the boot? Yeah. They might bring that with him on the plane. That's, oh man. No, I really do think that was, it's funny how time goes on and we kind of like forget it's only a couple of years ago. That was a train wreck of a team under him and just trying to be Patriots light and cussing out players for trying to be nice to opposing players and complimenting them. He
gave Darius Slay shit because he was working out with guys on other teams during the offseason.
Yeah, he said some choice words too, saying that. That's it's pretty interesting, the words he used there. Yeah, so I think the Lions franchise in the city of Detroit is ready to I think 4 is a proper John Wick scale right here.
All right, so of all the players that are on the Lions that were on the Lions when Matt Patricia was there are not that many, by the way. They've done a lot of house cleaning because they needed to with some of the deals and the moves that were done. And I think that's why they have a case to exact some revenge here. Who do you think has the best case for wanting revenge on Matt Patricia? I'm going with Jeff Okudah because
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
How close was Jeff Okudah to having his entire career ruined by the Matt Patricia era, and now he has somehow salvaged it?
The theme of this episode that we didn't even intentionally do is like coaching and let players play fast. Watch Jeff Okudah playing under Matt Patricia, guessing on what to do, and then now watch him with the Lions staff and actually like dominating Justin Jefferson when he has to be manned up with him and like beasting him. Like that is the difference of a coaching staff. So I think Okudah is a perfect one because as soon as Patricia and I believe who's the general manager there, Bob Quinn, the name was. Yeah. So they were just calling Bill Belichick like, who do you like? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to bring him over here too. So like, yeah, that's what they were doing. Trey Flowers was an exception, but hey, yeah, let's bring that guy over here because he played for New England for once or twice, So I think now that they cleaned house and got some of those guys, I think Jeff Okudah is exactly the encapsulation of the revenge that the Detroit. One of our fans in the chat right now said this is what 14 wicks, 12 wicks. He's putting this at 12 wicks as a Lions fan.
You know what? I'm going to give that to Lions fans. If they want it to be 12, they want it to be 15. I think that they have more than good enough reason. So Bailey Zappi playing against the Lions defense in this game, and the fact that that's what we're looking at leads me to our pick segment of the week, because me and Beller were talking about this before the podcast started, about what that Lions Patriots line looks like. We're going to get to that here in a second. So pick segment. Our leaders in the pick segment over the course of the season so far, the Athletics' own Bull Wolf is 17-3 in the pick segment. I am so embarrassed that I'm doing so terribly, and Bo is crushing it. We were going to have him on this show. He is traveling to Arizona for the Eagles game, so he could not join us. Hopefully, Bo keeps it rolling. We can have him on to talk about what his strategy has been over the first 4 weeks here to go 17-3. Shane Vitash also 17-3. We have 4 guys at 16-4. I was 1-4 last week. So many of these were just heartbreaking. All right. I had Miami. So if Tua doesn't get hurt, who knows what happens in that game? But that goes off the rails. The Lions just cannot stop anybody. And with all those runs in the second half, which is just like, Jesus. The Jags play in a rainstorm, which and then the Colts are just the Colts. And so now I'm 1-4. I'm 9-11 on the season. I am slowly unraveling here. And I think that might continue as we get into our week 5 picks. All right. I'm going to start with those Lions. They're getting 3.5 points.
Explain it.
Against Bailey Zappi.
I know. It's
the mere fact that it can't be explained is why I'm not picking it.
I probably should. I probably should be scared off of it, but I'm picking the Lions plus 3.5 at New England. I'm probably going to regret that. I have the Seahawks plus 5.5 against the Saints. Maybe it's just because of all of the Geno Smith Kool-Aid that we were drinking here over the course of this show. But the Saints have been pretty disappointing on offense. I think that the Seahawks have been a lot better. I don't know if the Saints are 5.5 points better than the Seahawks right now. I have the Eagles minus 5.5 against the Cardinals. I think the Eagles are good. I think the Cardinals are bad.
Yeah.
So
good strategy.
I had the Cowboys plus 4.5 against the Rams. We talked about that game earlier.
Yep.
I don't know, man. That Cowboys defense against this Rams offense right now, I don't think the Rams are that much better than a Cooper Rush-led Cowboys team with the way that their offensive line is playing. And I've got the Chiefs minus 6.5 against the Raiders. I just think that the Chiefs are a lot better than the Raiders are. I think that offense has really found its stride. And, I'm really struggling to find games I like, and I like the Chiefs. So I might as well go that way.
I know. I'm kind of like tempted by the Eagles minus 5.5, just for your analysis. The Eagles are good and the Cardinals are bad. Like that's I know, but
not a bad way to go. Yeah, not a bad way to go.
I'm going against my first one. I'm 12-8 so far this season, 2-3 last week. That put a sour taste in my mouth for the same reasons. I can't believe the whole time I'm like, I bet the Colts. I bet the Colts as favorites. Bet the Colts as favorites. What are you doing, Nate? But I did not. I'm not doing them this week. They were my no-fly zone, man. So, anyways, get to my picks. Going Jaguars minus 6.5, hosting the Texans. I gotta check this weather. Make sure it's not rainy, and make sure that Trevor Lawrence has a nice, beautiful 72-degree day, and I think we'll be okay. I think this Jaguars team is a good team. Like I really do think. We're all excited about them, but I do think like in week 17 we're back. Man, that Eagles-Jags game, those were two good teams going at it. So Jags minus 6.5. I'm going to go with the Falcons plus 8.5 against the Bucks. Don't think this Falcons defense is going to hold up great against a healthy Bucks receiving core, but I do think that's a lot of points in this. I think it's going to be a nice little fun shootout a little bit. I think this is going to be back and forth. So I'm just going to take the points there. I'm going to go with the Dolphins minus 3.5 at the Jets. The Jets are starting Zach Wilson, and I know he had a good fourth quarter, but I think this Dolphins defense does some nice things that will manipulate where he wants to look. Maybe try and make him go into creation mode. I do think the Dolphins with Teddy Bridgewater, if he's starting, the Tua's out this week.
Yes.
If Dolphins like with Teddy starting it's a little like they can manage. Like I think they're gonna be able to do some things still. So I think that game is gonna be actually a pretty interesting game. Cowboys plus 4.5. Agree with you. I think it's just the Banshees of this Cowboys defense against the Rams. I don't know. I think this could be a very close game. I'm just taking the points here and just hoping that I think it's going to be an ugly like 2017 slog, 17-13 type game. And so, taking the points there. Then the last one, this one, it was tough. I went with the Ravens minus 2.5 hosting the Bengals. As we talked about it on this show, though, I felt worse and worse about this bet. So my confidence in this one is not that great, but I'm doing the Bengals minus 2.5, thinking they're going to bounce back game. They, even with all the blemishes they've had, the Ravens have played good ball this year. I think it's going to be a close one, but it's less than a field goal, so hopefully you're going to take that.
All right, guys, I went 4-1 last week, feeling pretty good, 13-7. There were a couple of run your pool wins, ones that were at 2.5 or 3.5 that had moved to 3 that actually ended up being pushes on Sunday. But hey, we don't care about that here. Very happy to take that 4-1, 13-7 on the season. Unanimous, you guys, on Cowboys and Rams for all the reasons you guys have said. So I will just blow right past that one. Nate, we're against each other on 2 picks. I like the Bucks laying 8.5 against the Falcons. This feels like a spot where they just get right. They get home for this game. I think the Falcons are going to have a lot of trouble against that Buccaneers defense. I just don't think they're going to be able to do what they've done against Cleveland, against Seattle, against Tampa, and that Tom Brady and company are going to be able to get things moving. This is the healthiest the offense has been really all season for Tampa. So I like Tampa to take care of business in that one. And then I also like the Bengals getting 2.5. I would like it a whole lot better if it were 3 or 3.5 for obvious reasons. But I just think when you stack these teams up against one another with what we've seen Cincinnati's defense able to do this season, that I would like either team getting points. If this were flipped in Cincinnati and Baltimore was getting 2.5, I would like Baltimore in this spot. I just think this is a game that is very closely played between two quality teams. So I'll go ahead and take the points. I'm also on the Dolphins. The move from Tua to Teddy Bridgewater in the betting market feels like a little bit of an overreaction here, so I will happily take the Dolphins at -3.5. And then finally, I'm surprised that neither of you guys took the 49ers with everything we've been talking about that. I
can't trust Jimmy with 6.5 on the road. I can't.
After everything you guys said with Diante, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a unanimous pick with what that defense is going to do to Baker. So I get it, Robert. I totally understand where you're coming from. But
it's going to be a 9-3 finish where the Niners have 17 sacks, and you're going to lose that bet. That's my concern. I was looking at so this is very true. I picked it. And then I stepped back and I was like, 6.5 on the road's a lot of points for this Niners offense right now.
Yeah,
and then I unclicked it and I picked another game, and I don't even remember which game I picked. And that tells you how much I know about doing this.
I mean, couldn't this just be 7-0?
Right.
Or it could be 6-0 and you lose that bet. That's my concern.
Where do the Panthers find any points in this game?
I know.
Defensive touchdown.
It's been magic.
They want robber.
Yeah.
They're
Jimmy G. They're going to play one robber.
Yeah.
Jimmy's going to throw it right to whoever that safety is.
The Deebo Samuel touchdown last week was this close to a pick six going the other way.
I can't do it. I just truly cannot do it, even if I think the Panthers will score negative points on offense. By the way, Kevin Smith in the chat right now said that the Eagles also played in a rainstorm. Kevin Smith, go back and listen to the Sunday podcast. We spent 25 fucking minutes talking about the Eagles offense and what they did in that game. I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to let it slide.
Go write another movie.
Yeah, Philly fans, I mean, you got to understand, you guys are like the 4th biggest market in the country. You guys are nobody's little brother. You are not like, you guys are the bullies. I want you guys to understand that. There's nobody believes in us. You guys have such a big market.
The amount of time and energy we have spent talking about the Eagles on this show over the last week or so is insane. I'm not going to
we got an Always Sunny in Philly drop in this show.
It was a rainstorm, and Trevor Lawrence dropped the ball 3 times. It's not that the Eagles were at some disadvantage or the Jaguars were at some disadvantage because it was raining. It's that it was a weird game because it happened in a rainstorm.
Yes.
All right, that's all I got.
Now go direct
off my chest.
Yeah.
Get that off my chest.
Exactly.
All right. That's all we got for today. Guys, please, if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done that. If you're listening to the podcast, just go click in the description. It's in there. We would love if you would subscribe. We are doing a live show on Thursday night tonight after Colts and Broncos. All of our live Thursday night and Monday night football recaps will be on YouTube only from now on or over the course of the season. So if you want to listen to that, you want to watch that, you got to watch it on YouTube. So highly encourage you to go check that out. Please, if you haven't, subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, leave a review. You guys did a great job of that. We got a bunch of them this week. Keep them coming. If you like the show, go leave us a rating and a review. Also, please subscribe to The Athletic, theathletic.com/football show. We will be back tonight. In the meantime, I appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.